Unless you're very deep into vintage watches, you've never heard of Welsbro. Don't pretend you have. It makes sense, there hasn't been a Welsbro branded watch since the 1970s. Welsbro was founded in New York in 1926, and in the 1930s started making their own watches. During World War II, they produced watches for US soldiers, and after the war, transitioned to making daily watches for men and women. And then at some point in the 1970s, like so many smaller watch brands, they vanished. For Welsbro, the quartz crisis was real and the end of the line. Until 2021, the Welsbro name is being revived. This is not the first time a long-forgotten brand is getting new life, but I've never seen it done like this before. I'ma be real with you. The people behind this modern iteration of Welsbro are friends of mine. You can see this as a conflict of interest. They're not paying me, but they have fed me before. Or you can see this as a vote of confidence. I'm not friends with people I don't like or don't trust, or who think Daniel Wellington is an acceptable dress watch. You know, good humans. But the fact that Welsbro is run by a wife and husband team is not really what makes this brand so different, and not even the fact that this brand is located in Portland, Oregon. What makes Welsbro so unusual is, thankfully, the watches themselves. These are the 4 watches that Welsbro will be launching on September 18th of this year, 2021. 2 dive watches and 2 chronographs. These are bold and playful and certainly not for everyone. I think to appreciate these watches, you have to have a certain appreciation for vintage watches, for humor, and for not taking this dumb hobby too seriously. So why do these appeal to vintage watch lovers? Because most of the components in these watches are repurposed vintage components, some of which have never been used before. We call stuff like this new old stock. This is a wild take on recycling. It's one thing to make a watch dial from plastic found in the ocean, but it's far more environmentally friendly to use components that have already been produced. Environmentally friendly and a really interesting way to give people new watches that have a vintage charm, and that's without fake patina or trying to replicate old watches. Let's take a look at each of these pieces. These are the 2 dive watches, the orange soda and the lemon lime soda, and right away we hit on the humor. Each Welsbro watch is themed by food. The dive watches are sodas, the chronographs are condiments, and all of the watches even come in lunch boxes. And the lunchbox along with the watch are some stickers and a playing card describing the watch. This is so stupidly funny, and these wild, funky illustrations really help set the tone for what Welsbro is going for. The dive watches are 37mm in diameter, 13.5mm thick, and 45mm long from lug to lug. They take 18mm straps and have a 200-meter water resistance. The cases were made by Monin in the 1970s. Monin made cases for a lot of brands, and maybe most famously for Heuer and Tag Heuer dive watches. Inside the watch is a Shield Caliber 1913. It's a well-known and well-respected movement that hasn't been produced since the 1970s. Of course, in these it's been freshly serviced to a like-new condition. And like watches from the 1970s, these divers use acrylic crystals. That's important to note. You can see the full list of components on the Welsbro website. I really dig how they break things down by age and geography. The dive watches will cost $500, and Welsbro plans to make only 12 of each color, so good luck everyone. And for all the watches I'm showing here, Welsbro will be donating 10% of the sale price to Meals on Us, which is a non-profit that serves meals to those in need. That might sound like a little thing, but that's actually pretty huge. And then we have the chronographs, condiments, ketchup, and mustard. These cases were made by AQB in the 1980s, and were first used by Lamania and later by Zinn for their 147 pilot chronograph. It's a really interestingly angular case with a hidden lug design. The case is 39mm across, 15mm thick, and 46mm long across the wrist. There's a rotating timing bezel, and this one comes with a sapphire crystal. My favorite part of the chronograph is the movement. The Lamania 5100. The 5100 is kind of a legend in the watch world. It's not just because it's time-tested and reliable, but because, in my opinion, it's more legible than other more common cam-actuated chronograph movements. What's special about the 5100 is that both the chronograph minutes hand and the chronograph seconds hand are on the central axis. This means that if you're timing something that's under an hour, you don't have to read the tiny subdials. And speaking of legibility, a minor complaint I have with the Ketchup chronograph is that the chronograph minute hand has a red tip that blends in with the red subdials. It's not a problem on the mustard reference. These are the ingredients for the chronograph. These will cost $1,750, and again, Welsbro will only be making 12 of each color. All the Welsbro watches come on leather straps that the brand is having made in Italy. They're pretty nice. Welsbro has a lot of straps, and I kinda wish buyers could choose any of the brand's straps for their watch, but at the moment, that's not an option. Like I said, I've never seen a watch brand do things like this. The upcycling of old components, the art, there's a joy to these watches that's really refreshing for me to see. If you've watched my other videos, you know how important I think it is that people not take this hobby too seriously. You don't need a watch, especially a mechanical one. So let's be honest about it. We're into watches for fun, so maybe watches should reflect that fun. I don't think Welsbro watches are for everyone, and with the few they're producing for now, that works just fine. Though Welsbro will be producing new and different small batches of watches in the coming months. I do think these will appeal most to people with an appreciation for vintage watches. And you've gotta have a sense of humor to enjoy these. If you're not charmed by the fact that your orange soda watch comes in a lunchbox, maybe these watches aren't for you. And maybe neither is this YouTube channel. But damn, even if these don't speak to you, you've gotta appreciate what Welsbro's doing. The people behind Welsbro are doing things their way, and their way is innovative and different and playful, and I think we could use a lot more of that in the watch world.